Good morning and welcome to Coffee Talk. I hope everybody's doing well this morning. It's a chilly day, but we're going to have a warm, good time. I'm Susan Katzman. I'm half of the team of Coffee Talk. I'm here with Lisa Gubernick, and we're National Council of Jewish Women. And we have a very interesting and special Coffee Talk this morning. We have a lot of people on here who have been with us all year, and we have a lot of new people. So let me just share with you that Coffee Talk started about 16 months ago as a way to have a program for our National Council of Jewish Women members and others who wanted to join that would once a month have something that people could look forward to during the pandemic that was light and easy, but approached a variety of topics with interesting people. And when Lisa called me about this initially, she is our Vice President of Membership, and I am the immediate past president. She was really concerned about making sure that people had exposure to so many out there who have made a difference in this world. And that is a question that we ask every speaker that we talk to. So today, we are exploring the world of the paranormal. And we've had all kinds of reactions to this program. We've had people say, I'm sorry, that's too scary, I can't join. I'm sorry, it's too much about Halloween. It's too this, it's too that. It's none of those. This is going to be fascinating. I think as Lisa and I and our production team in Brooke and Jessa explored this discussion with George Danish, our speaker, we found it fascinating and really interesting, and we know you will as well. So we're anxious for you to meet George Danish. George is with the St. Louis Paranormal Society. And you need to know that George is really a retired U.S. Army colonel, where he served for 26 years. And after that, he retired. He moved back to O'Fallon, Illinois, and was in the commercial business. And I think he'll tell a little more of the story, but as he told us, his wife got tired of him hanging around the house, retired, and challenged him to go find something to do. And that's when he got engaged in the Paranormal Society. And what's interesting is the Paranormal Society has just under 20 volunteers, George being one of them, that go out and do the work around paranormal sightings and so forth. So today we're going to explore just what is the world of paranormal, how do they do their work, and what are some of the things they have found in the broader St. Louis metropolitan area around paranormal sightings. And we'll listen to George. He's got an excellent slideshow with some videos. You need to know this is being recorded. We have a YouTube channel, and we have a couple people who need to leave a little early. You'll be able to go onto the YouTube channel and see the rest of it. We will then, after we've heard from George, take some questions. If you have questions as we go along, please do us a favor, put them in the chat, and then Lisa will call on you and we'll go from there. So sit back, get your favorite beverage, and please meet George Danish. And George, we're just delighted to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate having the opportunity to talk today. And just so everybody understands that exact dialogue with my wife, I told her, I said, now that I'm retired, I can spend every waking moment with you 24/7. Her words to me were, you need to find a hobby outside the house. And so that's kind of how all this got started. If you're ready, Susan, I'll start the presentation then.
We are ready.
I think everyone can see the screen right now. Appreciate that. One of the really neat things is when I was talking with Susan when they first invited me, she said that one of the previous guests on Coffee Talk was an associate with the TV show Jeopardy. And I told Susan that ghost hunting is a lot like being on Jeopardy, since most of our answers are in the form of questions such as, did you see that? Did you hear that? And my favorite, what was that? Again, thank you very much this morning for allowing me to speak with the group. These are the topics that I'm going to talk about, and I will say this, all of my discussion is going to be about what we do with the St. Louis Paranormal Research Society. I'm not going to talk about any other outside organizations, but these are the things that we do. Talk a little bit about the growth of the paranormal investigation in the U.S., who we are, how we do what we do, and then, as Susan said, look at some of the haunted places in St. Louis that we've had a chance to go into. Again, fascination with ghosts been around for a long time, but in the beginning, most of that was because of what your imagination would allow you to do when you were reading a book or hearing a story. But now we've had all these different movies, and they really kind of take your imagination out of it because you are so bombarded with all of the special effects that basically you just sit back and let those things happen. Some of my favorite movies, The Shining, which basically, even to this day, whenever an elevator doors open up, I kind of take a couple steps back because you just don't know. With Poltergeist, we learned that you should never, ever build a house over an abandoned cemetery. Just my personal favorites, Ghostbusters. That's kind of one that I always like to go back to. But now recently, since 2013, we've had a lot of these movies called The Conjuring. And they really have a lot to do with two paranormal investigators who are, and the stories are based on some of their true events, as they say. But now we're bombarded every day by paranormal documentary, these reality TV series. The first one was Ghost Hunters. And I liked them because they did as much time trying to debunk what they found as they did to try and prove it. But now you have a lot of other shows like Ghost Adventures, and there's another very, very, very many more out there. And they're all built on, somebody gets possessed every 15 minutes. You see demons crawling up and down the walls, and there's so much drama built into them that they really kind of take away from what we're really trying to accomplish when we go out there to find something that's truthful at that time. So again, a little bit about who we are. Again, we have all of our members from the St. Louis metro area. We come from various backgrounds. We have a police officer, we have school teacher, we have several people who are in the professional management in the St. Louis area. I always kind of like to say that we try to put the normal into paranormal. But having said that, we do have some folks who have what I consider to be paranormal skills. They have these heightened sensitivities that when they go into an environment, they're able to pick up on things that most of us do not. And then we have the rest of us like me. I have none of these sensitivities, so my main function is to use cameras and to try and record the things that are going on so we can try and have some evidence as we're looking at them. But I think we do a real good job with the team that we have of blending those skills and really trying to find out why things go bump in the night. Our office is located down on Cherokee Street at the Old Lemp Brewery. And certainly you can contact us in any number of ways. Our website, our Facebook, which currently has over 122,000 followers right now. You can call us up or send us an email.
George, not to interrupt you, can you show slide by slide rather than it's coming up as your entire slide deck on our screens?
Oh.
So then people get to see in advance what you're going to say.
Sure.
Do you want to share it and then maybe the NCJW staff can help? There it goes. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, we're good now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks, George.
No problem. Thank you. So what do? We are self-funded. We do a lot of organizing and running of these haunted tours. We either do them independently. We run tours around the Lemp neighborhood, for example. We also work with a lot of different business venues. We do work right now with the Fox Theater. We're helping them with their haunted tours. And we also work with the Lemp Mansion. We do historical and paranormal research. We try to go in and demystify, as I like to say, a lot of the different urban legends that are going on. And certainly we do podcasts, live chats, and we actually conduct paranormal classes and events. The other thing that we like to do, obviously, is doing paranormal investigations. We'll talk a lot more about that as we go through. And then we've been doing a lot of volunteer activities with local community organizations. One of those has been the Lemp Mansion. We've gone in and helped them do tours. We do all that free just to get, again, people out into some of these really cool historic sites. These are the folks we normally work with. Again, public organizations and businesses. I always like to show our names up in lights there at the Fox Theater, and then we certainly work with the private residential homes. When we go into public places, though, one of the things that we have built over the years with these different venues is that they have a confidence in us that we are going to try to find the truth and have a credibility. We're not going to just go in there and try to build up on drama. And we've had a lot of great times there with a lot of venues. You can see right there, currently working with the Fox. We've done the Steeple Theater, the GRANDEL, and you can see all the rest that we have worked with, to include the old St. Louis Courthouse, which was really kind of neat because we were the first group that they ever allowed to go in there to do paranormal investigation and then run some of their tours. The other thing we really enjoy doing is we do volunteer work with some of the local communities. We've done a lot of things with the local libraries now to help with their teen after hours programs. It's pretty cool. We go in and we show the teens how to do an investigation. We allow them to do the investigation, to use the equipment. And then at the end, they have to come back and they have to defend what they have found. And it really gets to be kind of interesting to see how they go about trying to take a look at the evidence that they've gathered to prove whether or not the library is haunted. When we do private residential homes, though, this is the most fun that we really have. We never, ever charge a fee to investigate a home. When we get called from people, most of the times they've been able to figure out what's going on in their house. And we realize that when they call us, they're really kind of trying to find out what's going on. It's just beyond their capability to make that evaluation. Again, our feeling is if you give me money, if I come in to do an investigation, now you have an expectation for me to find something. If I take your money, now I kind of have an expectation to find something for you. And as we always tell homeowners, this could be the most boring 3 hours of your entire life if we go into a home and find nothing at all going on in there. We never post any of these investigations or results on social media. If you go to our website, you will never, ever see anything about any of the investigations that we do in residential homes. When we normally conduct an interview, we'll go in and we want to get with the owner. We want to find out what's going on. Really important, it gives them a chance to meet us, and especially for us to meet them. I mean, I'm always very skeptical if I go into a house and they tell me that they have Elvis and Bigfoot down in the basement. I kind of really want to stay away from those kind of places. The other thing too is when we're meeting with people, we never ask for details. We don't want to know names. We don't want to know dates. When we go in, we want to have fresh minds to go in and see what we find. And then the homeowner could help validate if in fact we're on the right track. Depending on what they want us to do, we can give them various options. It can be anything as simple as a simple explanation. I always like to say that sometimes a flickering light is just faulty electrical wiring, and it's not a deceased relative trying to communicate. We try to really emphasize that by looking at those things with the homeowners. If they want us to do an investigation, we will do that. And then sometimes they ask us if we can do a partial or a full house cleansing. A cleansing is basically if you feel like you have a negative energy in your house. It feels stuffy for whatever reason. There are some techniques that we can show people or do for them if they would like, that kind of lighten that whole mood up in the house. And then again, if we do an investigation, once we're done, We do a write-up. We provide the homeowner with a DVD. We give that to them, and they can either use that for their own personal use. But again, none of this ever gets posted to social media. So how do we conduct an investigation? Again, we really, really try very, very hard to maintain a credibility, especially with the owners in their homes. Again, prior to arrival, we try to do a lot of research about this, about that particular site, learn the history. Most buildings, as I like to say, have layers. There was always something there before that house was built. So what was that? How does it relate back to history? We try to find those layers and try to lay that out as we're looking at that home. Once we get there to talk with the owner, we want to find out if anything new has happened, but again, no details. Once we go into it and start the investigation, we normally break up into 2 teams. We always include the owners with us. Some teams, some other groups don't like to have owners with them. We do, because the owner obviously knows what's going on. And as we're going through a certain amount of questioning, it really helps to have them there to validate that we are, again, in fact, on the right track with them. We try to eliminate all the non-paranormal factors that we can. For example, we had a gentleman who called us in and said that whenever he's in his living room, there's a picture of his deceased wife there with him. And from time to time, he says, I just get this really cold feeling. We went into that room, checked it out, and his chair was right over the air conditioning vent. So when that would come on, he would get that reaction. So sometimes, again, not everything is a ghost. We gather evidence one of 2 different ways. We do physical gathering, and that's taking photos, videos, recordings, and then interpretive evidence. And that's where we use the ladies that we have who have these sensitivities. And we try to combine the evidence that we find, try and give us some answers. And then what we do at set times, we will rotate the teams between floors. So we basically get 2 looks at a single area by different teams. And then finally, when we get together at the very end with the owner, then the teams will discuss what they found on each floor. We look for commonality, and then we look to work with the owner to find out what they would like us to do if we, in fact, have found something that they decide is objectionable to them in the house. When we talk about evidence, really what we're trying to do is we're trying to really move away from something that's a coincidence to something more conclusive. A good example is if we go into a house and we ask, can you make a knocking sound? And let's say we get that knocking sound, then we'll ask, can you do it again? And we might try to do it again, trying to get away from something that's just a coincidence and trying to move to something a little bit more conclusive that we could really start to rely on what is in fact going on in that house. We try to get as much tangible evidence from multiple sources for the same event. And I've got a great example of that, of one of the things that we found at the old St. Louis courthouse that really brings that to light about having enough evidence about a single event. And then finally, like I say, whenever we're looking at an event, we always embrace that fact that not everything is a ghost. So what types of evidence do we look for? From a physical evidence standpoint, it's pretty good to go in, look for figures, objects moving. I put orbs in there because they're probably like the least understood of all the different types of paranormal activity. I'm sure most people, if you've taken a photo outside of a family or friends, and you'll see all that, all that little white stuff all around them. They're not possessed. It's probably just dust, or it's probably something like bugs maybe moving around the area. But every once in a while, when we are in an environment, we'll encounter something that I call a spiritual orb. And it's something that when an orb, when you see it's very, very solid, has a very definite movement pattern. And paranormal theory says that if an entity is trying to manifest, this is the easiest way to do it, as a small sphere. So we really try to take a look and saying, is it more of a spiritual orb, or are we looking at a collection of dust or maybe a bug? We'll show you a lot of good examples after this. Always looking for audio recordings, getting something if we can get names or words, sounds and noises. Those are sometimes the most difficult to really make out, but try to get something, again, to correlate a lot of the different evidence that we're looking at. Once we move into the interpretive side, though, again, with what we call psychics and mediums, they'll use dowsing rods and pendulums, and we rely upon their individual sensitivities. So what types of equipment do we use? Obviously, we don't have any of this stuff. Most of our stuff comes from Walmart, Amazon. We use a lot of duct tape. I can tell you that when we go through with our equipment. For getting physical evidence, again, we want to use video cameras with infrared lighting so that we can do our filming in the dark. The electromagnetic field detector. This, if you've watched any amount of these different reality TV shows, this is the trusty old K2 meter that they have. And it will light up from green to red, depending on the amount of electrical energy that is near it. Again, paranormal theory says that an entity will give off a certain amount of energy. You do have to really be careful when you're using these and understand the environment you're in. I was in a house one time, dark room. I had one of these K2s that lit up all the way to the red. I basically thought I'd open up the gates of hell. I turned on the light and I was standing next to a microwave. So again, you really have to understand your environment when you're in there using these different types of pieces of equipment. Temperature monitor is nothing more than allows us to check the temperature in a room. So if somebody does say, hey, I'm starting to feel a cold sensation around me, we can use this monitor to actually see what that temperature reading is in that area. Thermal imaging camera is another segment of that. It allows different temperatures to come up and you get a picture, if you will, of what those temperature readings look like. Sometimes we will get a silhouette standing in a corner and there's nothing else there. So again, just gives us another representation of things that are going on in that environment. Physical evidence, again, a laser grid, very helpful to set that up. This is a part where I usually tell folks, if you're going to look for ghost hunting equipment, especially if you go on Amazon, you don't ever want to use the words ghost hunting. When you go in, I went in to purchase a laser to produce this kind of a grid, and I put in laser grid for ghost hunting, and it was $47. I then just put in laser grid for playing with a cat, and it was $10. So, you know, you really, really want to take a real hard look when you go looking for equipment. Try not to use the words ghost hunting because it'll triple the price of anything immediately for you. Obviously, using digital cameras, probably one of the best pieces of ghost hunting equipment, and everybody has it, are your cell phones. Obviously, you have video, you have photo capability, you have recording, you can put apps on it. Really, really one of the best pieces of equipment that you can have. We like to put motion sensors out there so that in a dark room, I don't have to sit there for 2 hours. I can put a camera in there, put motion sensors. If something goes by, it's going to trigger those types of sensors. And then finally, we have something called trigger items, getting a lot more play on some of the paranormal shows also. What I'm going to show you is an example of that. Let me set the story for this. We got a call from a young couple in Missouri. They said that they moved into the house, and when they were down in the basement, they would hear footsteps on the first floor. They said cabinet doors would be open. When the lady said she was working in her business space in the basement, she said she always felt like there was a presence. There was just something else going on. So we went in, and one of our ladies, as you see right there, who has sensitivities, sat down in this old reclining chair, and she's making contact with an entity named Jake. And as she's talking to Jake, you're going to see a short video of what happened. The audio is really very poor on this. So what you're going to be basically looking for as she's communicating using a pendulum with Jake, you're going to see down here in the lower right-hand corner, you're going to see this shadow that just came out of basically nowhere. And you're going to see a part of that shadow actually reaching up towards her hand where she has the pendulum. While this was being recorded, you know, she started to say, I'm starting to get a real cold sensation around the lower part of my body. Now, I was taking the video doing this. When I first saw it in the screen, I said, well, obviously somebody has put their finger in front of it, or they're doing something different with it. We couldn't figure out what it was. There was nothing in front of the camera at that time. So after we did some more research about who Jake was, we found out that Jake had lived in the house about 5 years prior. He was a previous owner. He had actually died in the house, and he had actually died in that reclining chair. And the next owners never moved the chair out. So this was kind of a trigger, and that's why Jake remained. Once they got rid of that chair, they said they never had any other issues going on in that house. So be real careful when you go to that antique store and you bring home that really cool mirror or that old German trunk that's been around from 1800. You never know who you're bringing into the house with you. This last piece of equipment is kind of all the rage on paranormal shows. It's the SLS camera. And what it does is when it's taking pictures and video of an area, it will take a figure or an entity and will present it as a stick figure. In this particular case, the stick figure, there was nothing behind it. That was the only thing we captured in that room. And obviously looking out there, there was nobody else standing out there. So again, just another way for physical representations of things that are in rooms. With our sensitives, I like to call them, they use a couple different techniques as they're trying to go through and evaluate an environment. One is the pendulum. I know a lot of people have seen pendulums being used. Basically, it's a crystal or a stone. It's suspended from a chain so that it's basically free movement. And using a pendulum, you could help to get yes or no type of answers. Normally, if they're using a pendulum, if they ask a question, if it circles clockwise, indicates it's a yes answer. Counterclockwise is a no. And if it's just swinging back and forth, it basically says, I don't know. So it's just a way for them to try and gain some further information when they're communicating with whom they think is an entity. Dowsing rods are always pretty cool. I say they're no longer just for looking for water anymore. Usually made out of copper. Again, same thing in an environment trying to get yes or no answers. Usually, if they cross, it means it's a yes. If they go open, it means a no. If there's no movement, it's basically, again, it's kind of a I don't know answer. Now, in using these things, people have seen these. You can certainly fake using these things. That's absolutely, I've seen it done many, many times. People just fake how they do it. I have watched our ladies do it. I will tell you, if you see somebody using a pendulum and you think that they're using their fingers to make it turn or go in different circles, ask them to make the pendulum stop. And if they have any kind of technique or real sensitivity to this stuff, that thing will stop like it hit a brick wall. I mean, it will go immediately stop. If you're faking it, you just can't make it happen like that. So again, just a good way to try and check and see if somebody is really just trying to, again, game the situation, if you will. The other items are called eye-ovilus and voice boxes. You can download these onto your cell phone. And the technique is if you're in an area, a spirit can use these different apps and it can present words to you. I'm not a real big believer in these things because, random words will generate and then it's up to you to kind of figure out what that word means. And I think sometimes people kind of take these words and I think they make more out of it than what's actually happening in the room. But people do like to use them, and it does give you kind of a cool sensation if you ask for a name and you hear the word Dave come across. So again, something else that people like to use. Now we're going to move into those different areas that we have had a chance to investigate in St. Louis. I know the photos that you're going to see. I know the videos. I was there with them. So I can tell you that I know that these are not photoshopped. This was not something that was just pulled off of YouTube. I always love going to the Fox Theater and the GRANDEL. You can imagine if you're a spirit, what better place to go to with all that crowd excitement and the different shows that are going on. The Fox is really cool because it was built over a Presbyterian church that was there up until 1927. The church was torn down and the Fox was actually built over the top of it. So again, a lot of different layers of history that go on there at the Fox. The GRANDEL actually was converted from the first Congregational church. So again, carrying a lot of those different things and that the different, like I say, layers into it when you go into investigate places like this. This is a photo that was taken in the Fox. Lots of stories, especially from the night security folks, saying that when a production has been gone or is over with, sometimes they'll look at what they call Section 2, and they will see someone out there. Looks like they're still sitting in the area. You can clearly see that there is something in that area under that yellow arrow. Some people believe that maybe it's a deceased patron, maybe it's a performer who has come back to see the next performance. Some people actually believe that possibly it was a member from the Presbyterian church that was there before. But again, that was done probably about 2014. This is a picture that was taken last year that again shows something that's out in that area. We've shown this to the Fox people, and the staff members they just say, you know, that's what we see from time to time out there. So again, like I said, Fox has got lots of different layers and entities going on there at the Fox.
Do they always sit in the same area, George?
It does. As a matter of fact, which we kind of defined that seat as H9. And when we were doing the Fox tours here a couple of weeks ago, we actually had a lady walk up and say that she and two of her friends had seat H9, 11 and 13. And I told her, well, enjoy your next performance because you'll never know who might be sitting there next to you. This was a photo that was taken a couple of years ago down in the dressing room basement. This was taken by a lady who was on our tour. She was taking selfies and had this picture of her friends in this mirror. And as you can see, like they say on Sesame Street, something here is not the same. She immediately showed us this picture. We still don't know where that came from. But again, just very cool. Again, something else that just happened to decide it wanted to be in that picture there at the Fox. This is a little video. This was done last year. I talked about orbs. This was a gentleman who was up on the stage, and he has a pair of dowsing rods. And he is supposedly in contact with an entity named Nora, who's on the main stage with him. And he asks Nora, did you like the Phantom of the Opera? And what I'd like you to watch is you're going to see a white orb come over the top of his head and fly down between the dowsing rods, and you're going to see the dowsing rods open up. This was when we showed it to him, he was just you know, again, a little frightened, but really amazed at what happened. You see it right there. See it come right out between the dowsing rods. Now watch the dowsing rods open up. So we think that based on that, Nora did not like the Phantom of the Opera. This one is in the Fox bathroom. This is up on the second floor on the mezzanine. It's the ladies' lounge. We've constantly heard stories that say that the Fox staff, when they're walking up on the mezzanine, there's only 2 or 3 people in the building. They say that they will hear one of the toilets in there flush. It's a motion activated toilet. They said they'll go in there. There's nobody in there. They've had the maintenance people check it out a number of times. Still can never find anything that's causing that toilet to activate. So this last time I put a camera in there, let it run for 2 hours. And in the first 15 minutes when I was reviewing the video, this is what I got. You may not be able to hear it, but right in the very beginning, you're going to hear 3 footsteps. And then and as you can see, there are no shoes, there's no legs, there's nobody in there. And again, nothing's coming out. And I'll tell you, when I showed this to the Fox staff, I have never seen a group of people get so excited about hearing a toilet flush in my entire life. This was at the GRANDEL. This is probably one of the best orb pictures I ever got. This is, it was incredible. You can see almost like the ring of light around it. There's so much light coming off of that orb. You can see that it's actually illuminating the seats right behind it. It's that's what you're looking for when you talk about an orb. That is definitely not dust, and it certainly is not a bug. We also do tours at the ALTON YWCA. During the week, this is a regular functioning YWCA, but once a month, they allow us to come in and we run tours. This is a joint effort between us and the Y to make a little bit of money. We run the tours, and the basic story, though, from there is that in the early 1930s, they had a maintenance worker named Mr. Gruber. He had his wife and daughter with him when he did maintenance work in the Y. Apparently, for some reason, and whatever it was, he basically took an axe and he killed his daughter and his wife. This is true. You can actually read the newspaper article in ALTON about this. And after he did that, he hung himself. So that's the kind of, if you will, energy that still seems to reside there at that YWCA. So we've gone in, and this was a picture. If you look down the lower corner down there, this was in the swimming pool area where apparently this is where the murders took place. And we think this is a photo of his daughter, Elizabeth, just kind of sitting in the doorway. as we were having tours coming back and forth through that swimming pool area. This one, that was kind of neat. This was down in the basement. They no longer allow us to go down there. That is a doorway that you see. It's not a mirror. And this lady's friend was taking the picture, and what she captured was this entity right in front of this other lady. The lady that is in that picture says she never felt anything around her. She never saw anything in her camera. But again, we got this really cool photo from a lady who was on our tour. She showed it to us immediately, and she gave us permission to use it. We think that possibly this is the wife down in the basement, again, just trying to communicate with someone else to tell her about the story of what happened in the YWCA. This one's kind of a funny one. This is a bed and breakfast in Illinois. This lady called us out there, wanted us to check out her bed and breakfast. She said that some of the people that were spending the night there told her that things were going on. Her exact words to us: "I do not want to be known as a haunted bed and breakfast." We said, okay, we understand that. We went in, we found some things, and what has happened since is she has been on 2 paranormal TV shows that have claimed that she is strictly a haunted B&B, and she's trying to get rid of that. But I said, it's too late. You're already on TV. Everybody already knows it now. This is one of the things that we took a picture up on the 3rd floor. If you see the shadow that's in that window back there where the yellow arrow is pointing, you'll notice it's a full torso. You can see the 2 shoulders. You could also see what looks like the head on the shoulders. People say, well, no, that's really the picture of that lady that's there on the right-hand side. But it's not, because you can see her shoulder is clearly in that doorway. That torso, that shadow torso out there, you can see both shoulders. So that was really kind of a cool shadow figure that we got on the 3rd floor. This was on the 2nd floor. I was just taking photos down this hallway. You can see the photo on the left-hand side, there is nothing. And then in the photo on the right, something decided to kind of peek around the corner and say hi to me as I was taking those photos. So again, her whole claim, I don't want to be a haunted B&B. I told her it's too late. This is the old St. Louis courthouse. Again, we were the first paranormal group that was ever allowed to go in there. And the best story I heard while we were doing our investigation, one of the maintenance folks used to tell us that up on the 2nd floor, whenever he would open up the doors in the morning to go down one of the corridors, he would always feel this rush of wind go by him. He said he wasn't really sure what it was, but he always said good morning to it. And he said from time to time, he would look up on the staircase, and he said, I would see a shadow figure standing up there. So he said, well, that's a really great story. So we were taking a tour in there, and I had this one tour. There were 15 people on the tour. And I told him, I said, definitely you want to take pictures at the top of the staircase. I told him the story. These are 2 different photos by 2 different people on that same tour. And within 5 seconds of each other, they ran over to me and showed me these photos. You can clearly see a shadow figure at the top of the steps. You can see that it's translucent enough that you can actually see the stairs behind it, but it's the same figure from 2 different people. And this was probably one of the different things I think that really kind of moved me from being a skeptic, and I was when I first joined, to kind of saying, maybe there is something to all of this stuff about entities in different buildings. But this is one of the coolest ones we've ever captured, and 2 different people had that same photo. Probably my favorite place, the Lemp Mansion, the brewery. We've been doing tours there for, at least I have been, for about 7 years. The Lemp Mansion is rated as high as the 4th most haunted hotel in America. Its history includes 3 suicides from 1904 to 1949. Really what saved the Lemp Mansion was the Pointer family. They purchased this place in 1975, completely renovated it, and opened it up in 1977. And since it has been open, it's been investigated by every major paranormal organization in the US and the UK. So it's got a lot of great history to it. The picture that you see on the right is of the old Lemp Brewery. It was built starting in 1864. It was eventually sold off in 1922 to the International Shoe Company. And then since that time was sold off in 1980, and is really just a shell of its former self. Our office happens to be in one of the office spaces there at the old Lemp. But a lot of really cool things happened when we were in there. This is a photo down in the Lemp Brewery. We started renting brewery space down there in the cave systems, probably about 2017. We were the first people down in that system of the basement in 27 years. We put motion sensors up there. We just put up cameras and let them run. And you can see something walking along the right side, came down that hallway, activated all the motion lights and just kind of walked on by. And we know that there was nobody down there because we control the locks and the keys to the 2 doors that are entranceways there. So again, something just decided to come out and say hello to us as we were videoing.
Hey, George, if you're working in that Lemp Mansion or the brewery and things have been seen like you just showed, do you get nervous? Like, does it spook you?
You know, and it's funny. I don't, and I think it's because I'm in the environment. And I will show you something at the very end, which was my only experience that I've had there. But I really don't. I mean, I think it's.
Uh-oh. George, I think your Wi-Fi. I think we lost George.
It looks like George had to take a little break, perhaps to perhaps to examine another photograph. We'll wait for him to join us, but wow, fascinating.
Uh-huh. We'll see if he tries to get back on. Maybe it was my question.
You can't break George.
I'm just going to say from out here in the hinterlands, it's Hillary. This is so interesting. I think he's just fantastic.
He is. He is.
I love how he's so real about it. Like he wants to be very clear. Mm-hmm. We don't try to make this stuff up. Like we try to truly
right.
demystify, debunk, and then wow, sometimes things really do happen that we can't explain. I love that.
Like he said, he started off and he was very skeptical about all of this. He was not. Yeah. He is not one that feels things or sees it himself.
I think I'm back.
Oh yay, you're back.
Yay, welcome.
Yeah, I know. Wonderful. Yeah, I'm gonna have to have my whole house cleansed apparently, because whatever I was doing, they didn't like it apparently. Let me get rolled back here real quick.
Sorry I interrupted you. I thought maybe that.
It was just really cool that happened. As I was talking about my favorite place there at the Lemp Mansion there.
And you're not even working right now in the brewery. You're at your house, right?
Exactly. Can everybody see my screen?
Not yet. Yeah. Not your screen.
How's that?
Yes. Although we can still see on the side your slide deck.
How's that? Is that now the full photo?
Not really. I mean, you can see one photo is bigger than the others, but you can see the rest of the slide deck. It's okay.
It just needs to be in present mode.
Is that any better?
Should we just go with this?
I think go with it.
Yeah. That's
So
fine. We can still see your, the big picture of the Lemp Mansion. It just doesn't fill the screen, but it's okay.
all right. Anyways, one of the pictures that we show is of the nursery. The nursery is one of those rooms in the Lemp Mansion that has never been renovated by the Pointer family. And the reason they believe that is because they say that that is the center of all of their paranormal activity in the Lemp Mansion. It's the only one that's kept under lock and key 24/7. And again, we've never been allowed to go in there. But while we were taking photos one time, we actually got to see something that popped up on that. And I don't think you can see that yet.
Yeah, you'll have to click down to the next slide. I think it's the next slide down.
Okay.
That's on, yeah, the Lemp Mansion.
Right there. Is that are you able to see that there? What says, it says Lemp Mansion on it?
Yes.
Okay. And again, what we saw from that was this was the photo that was taken by us outside of that nursery room, again, where everything is supposed to be happening. And we had a psychic that was there. She said that what she felt was that whatever was in there didn't want to come out, and it did not want us to come in. This is a picture in the Charles suite of the Lemp Mansion. And basically what you see is that shadow figure that's standing there in the doorway. People believe that that is in fact Charles. And again, it's just one of those great chance photos that we took while we were there. And again, Charles is normally associated with having this real strong cigar smell. A lot of people say that they've seen him up on the second floor. This is the only one that I've had that I ever had an experience. You ask if I'm ever, afraid in there, and I really am not. I was down in the basement area. I was giving one of my presentations, and one of my teammates decided to come in and do a video of this. So what you're going to see, this is in slow motion, and what you're going to see is something coming out underneath that yellow arrow, and basically coming out to greet me as I was talking. You'll see it come out right about now. You can see the white figure. And then you're going to see that basically it's going to move back towards the wall. And that's a photo of what that actually looked like as it came out. So when I first saw that, I thought it was probably a curtain or something. But when we went up to check it out, there was absolutely nothing up on that stage at the time. So those are basically the things that we have found while we've been investigating here in St. Louis in the metro area. I apologize for whatever possessed my computer at this time, but hopefully we'll get it back after I do a cleansing on it, etc. But having said all that, I'd like to ask if anyone has any questions.
Sure, we do have several that were in the chat. The first was from Nina Needleman. She said, when attending ghost or paranormal tours in other cities, what would indicate a legit tour or researcher versus the ones that are taking a story and making a money-making tour without real data?
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, people can tell stories. What you want is you want evidence. Again, people can fake photos in so many different ways with Photoshop, etc. But what you really want is you want as much proof as they can show you, and something that, again, a video like I just showed you at the end, that wasn't Photoshop. That was actually what they captured. But you want as much evidence as they can. And the other cool thing is too, is when you're on tours, if they don't let you take photos and use your own cameras and stuff, then you start to get the feeling that maybe people are saying, well, there's really nothing here. So you want to use your own camera and try and get as many photos as you can also.
Okay. And Linda asked, in your experience, do you find more ghost spirits in older homes versus newer homes?
And usually the answer is yes, and that's because, as I said, there's a lot of different layers. But what we find is that it comes down to the people that are actually living in the house. Sometimes people will they'll bring in things with them. Occasionally, folks have said that they've moved into a place, a brand new home, and things start to happen. And what we found is that that family, in fact, had those things going on and brought that in with them.
Okay. I'm glad I have a new house. So Marilyn asked, do you use spirit boxes? Are they valid? And what is a spirit box?
I don't like using them. And the reason is they basically, you turn on a spirit box and it generates through different frequencies on the radio. And what the theory is that an entity, if they're trying to speak, will use those different frequencies and will give you words. It's just too random for me. I mean, it'll come up with the word, and then you try to figure out what it actually means. I like something that's a video or a photo or something that I've caught on a voice recorder. But again, to me, just my personal take on it, spirit boxes are just too random with what they come up with.
Okay. And Jen Bernstein asked, what do you say to skeptics? I know you said you were. Like if someone says they had an experience and people chalk it up to sleep deprivation or something like that, what do you say to skeptics?
No, I absolutely, I understand completely. I was a skeptic when I first joined. And what it amounts to is now, especially as I said, with all this stuff that's on TV now, you're just bombarded with it, and you have to come out as a skeptic when you see all the drama. I mean, somebody cannot possibly get possessed every 15 minutes. I mean, it's just just doesn't happen. So what I try to do with people, if they're a skeptic, we try to show them evidence, and then it's up to them to decide whether they want to believe in that or not. I mean, I never try to convince anybody one way or the other.
That's good. And Leslie Jacobson asked, and I'm not sure if I understand that question, what kind of apps? I think you were talking about apps in your presentation. So she was asking what kind of apps, assuming they mean what kind of apps can be used for this kind of work.
Sure, there are several you can get. One, as I talked, was that iOvilus. That's this thing that will generate words. And again, theory is that that's an entity using that device, if you will, to give words. Some of the other better ones, though, that I showed you, those little K2 meters, the electromagnetic fields that try to see what the the electrical source is. You can download those onto your phone. Most of them are free. There's a couple others that will have temperature gauges on them too. There's some that actually give you thermal. You might have to add another little device to it, but there's a lot of different stuff. If you go out there, you kind of have to really take a look at it and read a lot of the reviews, because some of it is just, some of it's just junk, but there are a couple good things out there, again, that you can load onto your phone.
Joel asked, I have heard that the old famous bar Warehouse, which I think might be in the Goodwill storage building downtown, is haunted. Have you ever investigated that building?
No, we have not been asked to go in there yet. There are lots of buildings, as you can imagine, in the St. Louis area that we would still like to get into.
And Lisa Samus asked, when you photograph these images, can the naked eye see them, or is it just on the camera?
Most of the time we don't see them, and it's because it's happening so quick. That's why we tell people when they're doing, especially if they're taking photos, we always tell folks take pictures in sets of 3. As I showed you in that one bed and breakfast, that I was just taking random pictures in sets of 3s. First picture, nothing. Second picture, you see something. Sometimes, though, especially we've had people say that they've seen orbs and they've been able to video them. Some people do see figures come out, so you actually can see something. But most of the time, again, for me, I'm so focused on the camera, trying to make sure I'm getting good places to film, that most of the time what I see is just actually on the camera. Okay.
And have you ever heard any kind of like anyone talking, anything like that on the ghost tours?
As a matter of fact, we heard, this was really interesting. We heard at the Lemp Mansion, we were going through And we came into a room, we were talking, and I said, you know, sometimes people say that they see Charles, who was one of the folks who committed suicide there. I said that sometimes people say that they actually hear him talk, and we actually heard the words hello. Now, nobody else had anything going on. We didn't have any camera. I mean, we didn't have any voice recorders. We didn't have anything else, but we actually heard that word. And when you see everybody within the tour start looking around, you know, you try to say, well, did that come from an entity, or is it just somebody messed around? But from what we could tell, it was basically outside of the group itself.
Wow. And one last question, because then we'll have to wrap it up. But I know you were talking about how several churches have things going on. Gail asked, what about synagogues? Do you ever investigate any synagogues?
No, we have not been invited in yet.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. And then we always ask our special guests this one particular question. And George, how do you feel that you have made a difference in our community or in the world by what you do?
Well, one thing, we like to give back to the community. As I said, we like to help out with some of the different charities that we've done. We've done actually this year, we've been involved in 2 different Make-A-Wish segments. They wanted to go in and they wanted to do tours of the Lemp Mansion. So working with the Lemp Mansion, we were able to provide, you know, free tours for some folks who want to do that. We like to work with the local community, as we're doing with the libraries. Really kind of helping back with the teens. It gives them an activity. It's something different, something they're interested in, but we really try to relate it to, they have to come up with the evidence and they have to defend it and they have to put together the entire presentation. You know, and I feel sometimes like we do actually help a family maybe feel a lot better about what's going on in their house after we've helped them work through to find an explanation.
Thank you for what you do. We appreciate it. And thank you for being here this morning. And to show our appreciation, we are going to sponsor a child in your name for our back to school program. Thank you.
That is great. Thank you very much.
And our next coffee talk is November 23rd with Marcia Mermelstein. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So she is known as the Pie Lady. And she's going to demonstrate and discuss with us how to make delicious pies just in time for Thanksgiving. And we also, I just want to make a side note, we have another program for NCJW with Ellen Futterman. She's the editor of the Jewish Light. She was our previous Coffee Talk special guest, and she's going to do a 2-part workshop called Writing Your Story. If you've ever been interested in writing your story to create a personal memoir or preserve your family history, she is going to help us do that on November 3rd and 9th, 6 to 7 p.m. You could sign up on ncjwstl.org. And thank you everyone for coming on here with us. Hope you have a great Halloween. And thank you again, George. This was really interesting.
Just remember, not everything's a ghost.
Right. Right.
Thank you.
Like what happened today. It was not a ghost. Thank you again. Thank you, everyone.